Zaina Allen here with Bold TV, and I'm here at the 2019 Westfield International Film Festival with tonight's honoree, Miss Kat Graham. She'll be receiving the Humanitarian Award. How are you doing today?
I'm good. A little under the weather. I'm great.
Great, but sick but great.
But great.
It's a blessing to be here.
You know what I'm saying? It really is.
Yes.
It really
And we're so glad to have you. So how does it feel to be honored for your humanitarian work?
It's a little weird. You know, I never think about that. I should probably stop thinking about getting an Oscar then. You know what I'm saying? I'm kind of floored because I think people barely pay attention to that work. It's not something that is like the sexiest thing that I do or the sexiest thing that I talk about. So I feel like I can barely get much attention for it, or you know, it's hard to fundraise for it, let alone be getting an award for it. So I'm really honored. I'm really floored, and also like having it be like a film festival, and I think it really makes it even more special because it's really the film community, and it's nice. It's nice to be recognized for what I'm contributing to the world. You know.
Yes, and you've been. Yeah, and you've been doing a lot of work for refugees, human rights, as well as animal rights. So let's touch on each. What's the type of work that you've done recently? I've been seeing a lot of articles about you, especially Marie Claire just recently put one about you for your refugee work.
Yeah, so this year I had gone to Ethiopia and to Uganda. So I went to Ethiopia with the UN Refugee Agency, and it was really focused about education and really women. Both of the trips were really focused on women, and culturally, you know, that's something that has been interesting to see, that in different cultures, you know, women aren't necessarily promoted to get an education or, you know, be in the workforce and things like that. They're promoted to kind of marry and serve the man, and, you know, so it's been interesting to spend time with these young girls in school that, you know, are in this kind of very, very interesting scenario. So that was a really great trip. The one in Uganda was especially amazing because there are these two girls that want to be designers, and they're from Congo. They're Congolese refugees. So I'm still working with them to kind of like come up with a really cool dress for an award or something. And my friend Gloria, who started the Kampala Fashion Week in Uganda, is working with them and mentoring them so that they can eventually show at the Kampala Fashion Week. So it's actually one of the first times that my work with refugees has been able to expand into my own career in terms of like fashion and being able to bridge the two, which has been really cool. This year's been a lot, and even last year was a lot. It's been really Africa focused, just being Liberian. It was important that, you know, that I'm addressing things that I find myself genetically connected to, things that are kind of pulling on me. I still haven't been to Liberia yet, and my grandfather was a refugee from Liberia who turned out to be like a UN ambassador. So it's really important that, you know, I'm focused on that. And obviously, so last year I went to Somalia, which was, I did not go with the UN. They told us to not leave the airport. We left the airport. We had to do an emergency food drop. So, you know, anything like that has been a huge focus of mine. But a couple or 4 years ago, I went with the UNHCR to the border, Mexico and Guatemala, and dealt with, did a bunch of interviews with people that were crossing the border because they were dealing with like gang attacks and things like that, where they're literally fleeing for their lives. And it's important to see those videos too because of what is happening in America. With, you know, mothers and fathers being torn away from their children. So I'm doing what I can. The animal thing, it was honestly, I always say, a fluke. I try and be a conscious person about what I eat and put on and everything like that. But it's, you know, I just say that I just don't eat meat or, you know, dairy.
I mean, that's a big step too.
How you live is how you live, and I do what I can, and I work with companies that hold that. That same, I try anyways, and if they're not doing it, then I'm working with them to, you know, raise their awareness for these things, you know, and trying to come at it from like a place of compassion and awareness rather than judgment, you know. And being in entertainment, it's really, really hard. to be vegan. They'll have like a food scene, and I'm like, I can't eat that thing. You know what I mean? Like, you just try and not be difficult and just try and come from a place of compassion for everyone.
Yes.
It's hard.
Absolutely. So you've done a lot. This is a lot that you've done. So when did you decide, I need to be this voice for other people who don't have this voice? At what age, what point in your life did you say, yes, I needed to do this?
I don't know. I think when like, my mom was a single mom, like, white mama with a black kid, and she really had no support. So I had always been focused on, like, women and being a strong woman and being an independent woman. So that was always a focus of mine. And then I had gone through, I don't even want to say a depression. I was really hard on myself as a child actor, which sounds really ridiculous. But I was going through a lot of rejection, which isn't necessarily healthy for a kid to go through. Like, before I was doing my Disney days and stuff like that, my mom was like, why don't you just volunteer at the children's hospital? Like, why don't you see what it's really like and get some perspective? So I winded up volunteering and working at the children's hospital, and it completely changed me, and they let me work also in the cancer ward. And I was only maybe 14, 15. I was pretty young, and I did it for a long, long time. And I spent the majority of my life not, like, rich by any means, really just typical struggling artist. And I told myself that if I ever were to get any sort of financial stability, which, by like age 18, I was like, yeah, any day now, that I would be a conscious person, that I would try and keep my perspective. And a huge way of keeping my perspective and not getting, like, caught up in myself or my career even is to do this kind of work, to keep the perspective and to keep the balance.
Yes. And your work is admirable, I must say. But switching gears a little bit into the entertainment world, yeah. How do you balance, all the roles that you've had? I've seen you in so many roles, by the way, but all the roles that you've had, and still being a humanitarian. How does your platform help you?
Oh, it's so important. In fact, if I'm not careful, it can actually work against the work that I'm doing. Like, one of the first jobs I got offered after Vampire Diaries ended was a series regular to be a stripper and to be, like, topless. They're like, it's only once a week you'd have to be topless. I'm like, this kind of goes against all that female empowerment work that I've been doing. So saying no to things, even if it brings you less money, is also really important. So it goes hand in hand. So the movies that I have coming out next year are really focused on, and even the stuff that I've had this year and last year have been, since the show ended, I've had to make a conscious effort to do things that I feel like elevate the Black woman. So, like, being the first Black April O'Neil was really important. Even though it's a cartoon, I never had a young Black female cartoon to watch when I was a little girl. Everything was like, there were none. I mean, I really can't even think of one. Even Proud Family was way, like later.
Right.
Hi, Kyla Pratt. Hi, honey. So I didn't have that. So I wanted to make sure that I had that for the young girls. I did this movie called Cutthroat City, which is coming out, which focuses on the Ninth Ward after Hurricane Katrina and how FEMA just left them, right. And focusing on the fact that there is still so much of that district that still doesn't have water and power, and addressing issues like that. Emperor tells the story of Shield Screen, it's a true story, and he helped spark the Civil War. He was a runaway slave. So I'm trying to tell stories that address it, but also things like, I did this Netflix movie called Operation Christmas Drop, where I'm the lead, and I play an aide to a congresswoman. So, it's important that I'm just trying to shift the dynamic of how women are portrayed, that we are all different and that we all have a different style and aesthetic and personality and story, and I'm making sure that what I do has integrity and responsibility. I'm trying. So that's really it.
Yes, this is great. It's been lovely talking to you. Now,
too.
one last question. This is Bold TV,
Right.
so we have this one question that we ask everybody. What does bold mean to you?
You know, I've been thinking about like strength. You know, recently I've had a bit of bullying online that was brought to my attention and that I actually saw, and I'm like, listen, they coming for Beyonce, they coming for my ass. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're definitely gonna drag me. But I think that the hardest thing, the boldest thing to be is yourself.
That's a good one. That's good.
It's so hard because especially for me, having a Liberian father and this very white mom, you know, I'm literally in the middle. I mean, I'm literally I'm African American, and I relate to so much, and there's some things I just don't relate to, and all we can do is just be ourselves. You know, I'm not going to try and dress a certain way because I think a black woman has to wear this, or I'm not going to behave a certain way because I think a white woman behaves like this. It's really important that we are all our true selves in whatever that means and however that feels. And I think that's probably one of the scariest things to do. Because if you're hiding under somebody else, then people can poke fun at you all day and you're like, ha ha ha, it's not me anyways, you know. But if you are yourself and they still come for you, then it takes, I think, a lot of strength, even if you do get bullied, to continue down that path and say, you know what, this is who I am, this is what I like, these are the people I've connected to, this is who I love, this is how I like my hair, this is how I like my clothes. You know, I think being bold is standing in your truth.
Thank you so much. I love that answer. But yes, thank you, Kat Graham. Thank you.
Thanks for taking the time.